Hello anime fan, welcome back to What If Animes 2.0. So in this video you gonna see, what if Naruto had a legendary bloodline and a harem with the all women. This is part 1. And if you want more then hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. So let's getting the video and do check out the author of the story. Come on. Naruto shot out of his bed like a man possessed as he gathered his scattered clothes from the floor. He was already 30 minutes late to class and he promised Haruka that he wouldn't skip anymore. Well, try not to. He did have an excuse. He was up late studying how to complete his one crutch in the academy, the dreaded Bunshin no Jutsu. He still couldn't produce more than 2 solid clones. He struggled as he jumped out the window and landed on the rooftop across from his apartment. He quickly scurried across the rooftops as he fought to put his clothes on. He managed to put his white undershirt and orange jumpsuit as he approached an alleyway in a full sprint. He began to pull his pants on when he tripped. He looked down and cursed silently to himself as he fell. Naruto began to yell as he fell towards the ground of the alleyway. There was a brief point of bliss and Naruto then felt like he shot forward quicker. Naruto closed his eyes as he almost hit the ground and collided with something soft and caused a scream of protest. Naruto opened his eyes and noticed that he was sprawled over Mizuki-sensei, who groaned in protest. Naruto looked around and was caught in the most confusing and embarrassing situation he's ever been in. He was laying on his teacher with his pants halfway pulled up in front of his entire class. There was an eep, and Hinata passed out from what looked like blood lost in the back row, but it went unnoticed by the blonde. Naruto screamed a banshee with pink hair, causing the blonde to scamper to his feet. Naruto, now fully dressed, turned to a stunned Haruka who was staring at him with a raised eyebrow. "Naruto, please take your seat," Haruka said as he shook his head. "Naruto, see me after the first test, come on, Haruka-sensei," Naruto complained as he trudged his way back to his seat. His head still swarming over how he got here. He didn't even notice that his test was given to him by limping Mizuki as he grumbled about stupid brats. Naruto looked up to see Haruka's eyes not leaving Naruto's as if he was studying him. Naruto turned and his head towards his test and started to sweat. This was going to be a very confusing day. "Naruto," Haruka started as it was just him and Naruto left in the class. Naruto bombed the test, he knew it, but he had other things on his mind. "We need to see the Hokage. I think you have some explaining to do." "What do you mean?" Naruto asked as he stood looking stressed. "You just appeared in my classroom," Haruka said with a raised eyebrow. "And I know it wasn't a prank because I would have sensed you coming. I think you may have stumbled onto something that isn't so simple to explain. Come on, you're excused for the rest of the day. But I need all the help I can get with the big test only 2 months away," Naruto complained out loud. "If I don't train I will never become a shinobi, which means I can't take that hat from Gigi." "Naruto, I think that this might be more helpful than you think," Haruka said with a smirk. "Now let's get to the Hokage." They arrived at the Hokage tower in record time. Naruto couldn't believe that Haruka was so worked up over this. Well, granted, he felt a bit off about the situation. He wasn't even halfway to the school when he suddenly appeared in the classroom. Naruto still couldn't explain it to himself. How is going to be able to explain it to Gigi? Naruto looked up as the Hokage steadily puffed on his pipe as he listened to Haruka finish what he was saying. Naruto could have kicked himself for ignoring what Haruka said, so he decided to tune back in. "And that's why I believe that we should test him as soon as possible in case my assumption was correct," Haruka concluded as he turned to Naruto, who was staring at him with a glazed look. "Is that what his eyes looked like when he appeared in your class?" The Hokage asked with a slight grin, knowing that Naruto was lost to his own thoughts. "No sir," Haruka huffed as he slapped the back of Naruto's head, who let out a whisper of curses. His eyes had a milky silver to them. They almost looked like pools of mercury. "Interesting," the Hokage said as he looked down at Naruto. "Naruto, I know your chakra control is lacking, but I want you to try something." "Sure, Gigi," Naruto said, now paying complete attention. "Focus chakra into your eyes," he said with a smirk. Naruto looked at him confused and then made a small cross sign that he used to help with his concentration on chakra. Then the amazing happened. His eyes turned quickly to the pools of liquid mercury. They looked weird, truly beautiful in color, and seemed to be swirling slowly. "I don't believe it," Haruka said, a bit flabbergasted. "Naruto, now that you have the concentration, please move to behind my desk." Hokage said with a steady puff on his pipe, not taking his eyes off of Naruto. Naruto raised an eyebrow and took one step forward, but the Hokage held up a hand. Without moving. How am I supposed to do that? Naruto yelled in protest. Just do it, Naruto, Hokage said in a serious tone. Naruto sighed and stared at the window behind Gigi. Naruto slowly felt the same blissful feeling and soon found himself smashing into the window and falling on his butt. Naruto turned and rubbed his nose as his eyes returned to normal. The Hokage started to laugh as he turned towards Naruto. I don't believe it. Amazing, Iruka said as he sat down dumbstruck. He just teleported. This is amazing. Naruto shouted as he stood up. His eyes changed back to the silver mercury color and he poofed out and back in behind Iruka, stumbling but still managed to stay on his feet. I have a dojutsu. Yes, it would seem like that way, the Hokage said, standing as he leaned forward. Naruto, I hate to say it, but you will be pulled from the academy for the next 2 months. You will be training with an appointed sensei during that time to get a firmer grip on your new dojutsu. Hokage-sama, Iruka interrupted as he stood up. I've never seen or heard of a dojutsu like this. This couldn't be hereditary. You are quite right, the Hokage said as he watched the energetic blonde poof around his office with better control. But like all dojutsu, they are just mutations that lay dormant till the time is right. Now Naruto, the Hokage said, become serious once again. You are not to show anyone till you become a genin. Is that understood? Aw. Gigi, come on, this is too cool to keep locked down, Naruto said as he appeared in front of him. But one glare from the Hokage made Naruto gulp and agree. Now you will meet your new sensei at training ground 10 at 6, the Hokage said as he took out a scroll and started to write on it. After your 2 months you will return the academy and be placed on a genin team. Naruto, take your training seriously. When do I ever not take training seriously? Naruto asked as he poofed and appeared next to the Hokage and enveloped him in a hug. Thanks, Gigi. Naruto arrived at training ground 10 early. He didn't want to be late to meet his new sensei and get off on the wrong footing. Naruto walked to the middle of the clearing and looked around. It was a smaller training ground with one large post with several projections coming out of it. Naruto walked up to the post, leaned against it waiting for his sensei. A whistling sound caught his attention as he ducked in the nick of time to miss being a pincushion from a handful of senbon. What the hell? Naruto yelled as he turned towards the woods to see Iruka looking back with a smirk. Nice dodging, Iruka said as he walked closer. Since your bloodline is so different, we decided that you will have different senseis till then end of your training period. Okay, Naruto said as he grabbed the handful of metallic needles out of the post and waved them threateningly towards Iruka. Why did you try to kill me? You were fine, Iruka said, waving him off with a slight grin. You heard it coming from a mile away. Besides, I thought you would have teleported out of the way. You? Naruto started, but Iruka cut him off. I have devised a starting style of fighting that will do you well, Iruka said with a smirk. Now it is new and no one has the ability to do this fighting without suffering severe chakra depletion, but you are a special case. Cause of my bamfing ability, Naruto said with a smirk, causing Iruka to raise an eyebrow. Bamfing? Iruka asked but shook his head and tossed him what looked like a black and orange pair of gloves. I had these made for you, so try them on and let's see if they can work into this style. Wow, Naruto yelled as he pulled on the gloves. The gloves were all black but had orange flames engulfing the gloves starting from the fingerless holes. The knuckles had a studded metal plate with deadly-looking orange metal spikes, about half an inch in length. Naruto's eyes lit up when he finally had them on. Thank you, Iruka ni-san, glad you like them, Iruka said as he rubbed Naruto's hair. Now this is the style. I think you will like this. Outside in the surrounding trees stood a gallery of Konoha's shinobi. The Hokage stood in the middle next to the Hyuga clan head. Hiyashi stood with his standard unreadable expression on his face as he watched the blonde kid nod his head in understanding of what Iruka was teaching him. Hokage smirked as he saw the clan head activate his bloodline to watch as Naruto teleported in front of the training post. His eyes widened a bit in shock. He completely disappeared, he said in a shocked tone. It's impossible. Even when one uses the Shunshin we can still track him, but… Amazing, Asuma said as he watched Naruto pop in and out around the post, striking every time. With this he can really lay a beat down on people. Coming from all angles without a way to track. Who knew Uruka-kun could come up with such a cool style, said the snake mistress as she licked her lips. Just makes me want him more, down Anko, Kurenai said as she slapped the back of her head. You know you will never get him if you keep attacking him like he's your prey or something. The chase is half the fun. Plus maybe you should try it, Anko said with a sly smirk. Then added, as if an afterthought, right Asuma-kun? He seems to finally got his footing down, Kakashi said as he turned the page in his book, not even looking up, Asuma choking in the background as Kurenai rubbed his back. Everyone sweat dropped, wondering how he could even be watching. Most youthful, Guy yelled as he gave a blinding smile. He seems to be progressing well. Needs extreme training in hand-to-hand combat if he wants to keep up with this style. Right again Guy, said the older Sarutobi said as he puffed on his pipe with a grin. He may need a week or two with you alone to get his strength up. His punches lack power, and that can be an easy fix. I will be honored to help him brighten his flames of youth. Guy yelled as he gave his nice guy pose. I feel sorry for the kid, Kakashi said with another turn of his page, causing others to nod it in agreement. His main problem is his strength and taijutsu. He seems to have hit a new speed, Shikaku said as they watched Naruto phase in and out, but something was different. He was leaving behind an exact copy of himself that whisked away into smoke after a second. This effect was further confusing the bystanders as they couldn't see the real Naruto, who was still pounding the post with renewed vigor. Then there was an audible snap and the post went flying. Naruto stood drenched in sweat and panting heavily. That was great, Uruka yelled as slapped a hand on his shoulder, causing the blonde to stumble forward a bit. You really are improving. Did you see what happened when I bamfed quickly? Naruto said as he sat down next to the shattered post, his eyes changing back to their electric blue. I left like a smoky copy of me. That will further come into handy with this style, Naruto, he said with a smirk. You can feint your attacks and cause further confusion among your enemies. I can see how that can be helpful, Naruto said as the gears started to turn in his head. We may need another post, Uruka-ni-san. Too right you are, Uruka said as he looked at the remains of the shattered post. Since you ruined that post. Now on to phase 2, strength training. Right, Naruto said as he took off his orange jacket and reviled and tattered black undershirt with an orange swirl in the middle. What do we have to do? First we need to increase your weight, Uruka said as he reached out and took Naruto's gloved hands. His hands glowed in blue for a moment, then a seal became visible and the number moved from 3 to 15. Uruka let go and Naruto's hands fell to his side and his face looked slightly strained. You now have 15 extra pounds on each hand, Uruka said as he watched Naruto move his hands sluggishly. His entire arms moved slowly for that reason. You have the speed but you're lacking in power and, to be honest, style? Naruto looked at him confused. You mean taijutsu? No, I mean flair, Uruka said with a smirk. With your technique, you will need to reinvent taijutsu. Make your own style that fits your fighting techniques. That means you need some sort of style, flair, or confidence. I'm not lacking in any of those. Naruto yelled as he started to go through different katas that he learned at the academy. His arms moving slowly due to the extra weight. Sure, if you think having the style and thinking a rock, Uruka said. Look at the Hokages. They each had a certain style that set them apart. Your style is a balati close to the Yondaime Hokage. He had it, now you need to find a way to make yours. Remember that and you will come up with something world-changing. Now I want you come at me with everything you got. You sure? Naruto asked with a relit fire in his eyes. The speech awoke something that might turn out painful for Uruka, but this was a necessary step for Naruto to reach his true potential. Scared? Uruka asked with a cocky smirk as he heard Naruto, as he put it so much, bamf, behind him. Uruka spun and slapped away Naruto's fist, but was surprised when his hand passed through the punch with a wisp trail following Uruka's block. Uruka, thinking quick, mule kicked backwards and connected with Naruto, who stumbled back. How is it when the post hits back? Uruka asked. Naruto smirked and rubbed his chest, then dissolved into smoke and they started again. His style keeps changing, Asuma said as Guy nodded with agreement. They had been watching the spar for about an hour now. He seems to be honestly trying to find his own taijutsu. Huh? His style is more blunt than finesse, Kakashi said as he actually looked up. Blunt as in attacked hammer, Anko said as she watched Uruka and Naruto stop for a second. Iruka and Naruto laughed as Iruka removed his vest and long-sleeved t-shirt. He was wearing tight fishnet shirt now and smirked down at Naruto, who was bouncing on his feet ready for round 2. Anko went to jump after Iruka, but was knocked down effectively by Kurenai. This is true, the Hokage said as he continued to puff away. He needs to take Iruka's advice and find a common balance. If he doesn't, then he will just be a street thug brawler. Hokage-sama, Guy said as he looked over at him. I mean this with no ill intent towards your acute observation. But that is the true beauty of Naruto's fighting. It's so interchangeable that he will never have a rhythm. That is the true key to being an ultimate taijutsu fighter. He can't be timed, for he has no pattern in his fighting. Iruka is practically guessing where the next attack is coming from, because Naruto isn't using any of the standardized taijutsu stances. This is his true brilliance, and with fine-tuning he will become unstoppable. You bring up a good point, the old Sarutobi said as he took his pipe out of his mouth. Then an evil grin spread across his face. What if he was given a small weapon? After receiving several death glares and loud outburst at the idea, the Hokage admitted defeat and the weapon idea was put on the back burner as they continued to watch Iruka and Naruto spar. They were at it for almost 3 hours straight when they stood facing each other, drenched in sweat and panting heavily. Naruto's eyes were fading back to blue and he looked about ready to pass out while Iruka looked none the fairer. He was bleeding from several scratches and one bad punch that landed on his shoulder. Iruka stood out of his defensive stance and nodded to Naruto, who fell backwards and passed out. Iruka sighed as he fell back and landed on his back as well. He heard the sound of the Hokage and his gallery approach him. Looked back to see the Hokage smirking at the tired Chunin. He took you for a few rounds, huh? Kakashi asked as he put his book away and smiled. Iruka smirked back, waiting for the usual bantering. You must be getting rusty there. All that paper grading must be taking its toll. Kakashi, he was defensive the entire time. Guy said, missing the joke completely. He did exceptionally well. Thank you, Guy-san, Iruka said with a chuckle. But I still feel like I was hit by a bus. He was wearing weights and still managed to land a couple of solid hits. I couldn't keep track of him. That's because he completely disappears and reappears in a moment's notice, the Hyuga said as he looked at the sleeping boy. Even with my bloodline it would be difficult to fight against. It is truly a great asset to Konoha. Iruka-kun, are you hurt? Anko said as she walked seductively up to him. Iruka groaned as he tried to get up but was pinned down by Anko. Anko-chan, the Hokage said as he puffed on his pipe with a smirk. Please control yourself. Thank you, Hokage-sama, Iruka said with truly thankful eyes as Anko nodded to the old man but sat down next to Iruka and started to heal his minor wounds. Iruka nodded his thanks to Anko, who slightly blushed. At least let us get Naruto out of here, the Hokage joked as he picked up the smaller boy. Now you can enjoy. With that the remaining Jonin shunshined away, leaving them alone. Anko turned a predatory grin to Iruka, who was already sprinting away. I just love the chase, she said to herself, as she got up slowly and brushed off some dirt from her skirt. Then with a sing-songy voice she yelled out, Iruka-kun, where are you? Naruto groaned again as he tried to lift the chopsticks to his mouth. It has been 2 months since he started his private training. He was currently in Ichiraku's getting his fill of ramen before heading home to get prepared for his first day back to the academy. He would be going back on the day of his final exam. It was do or die this time and he had to pass. Over the last 2 months Naruto was put through some of the hardest and most miserable training that he ever experienced or thought was possible. He started his first week with Iruka, who taught him his style and flair. He became active when thinking on the run and changed up his stance with every swing. He became so efficient that he never fought the same way twice. Iruka started to fight back towards the end of the week, which bowed bad for the young blonde who took a good beating after the first day. But at the end of the week he was able to not only block, but return at the same time. His bamfing was becoming second nature as he was now using it at will for even the petty things. He kept true to his word and made sure that no one found out, but the Anbu are still looking for the one who dyed all the Anbu robes bright orange. Hokage was a little upset but let it slide. Naruto's pranks didn't end there. He became rather a nuance without limits. He stole all the towels out of the girls' bathhouse. That was Kakashi Nisan's idea, but it was enjoyable to see. Naruto smirked at remembering the stampede of partly naked women chasing some guy with hair as he cursed every kami in existence. Naruto then trained with Asuma, who taught him to better hone his sporadic strategy, helped him come up with a way to do that. He was truly good at feints, and Naruto picked up on a bunch of new tactics using his wisp clones. He dubbed it himself as great decoys and setups for more devastating attacks. He then started to practice against the crazy snake lady, who was extremely upset that she wasn't getting enough time with her Iruka-kun. The true meaning behind that was he slowly became a human pincushion as he used his new powers to becoming better at dodging and evading. He found out that he can take one other person with him on his port, as he was constantly saving Iruka-ni-san from the stalking snake lady. It took a large pull on his chakra, but he was becoming efficient at getting them out of sticky situations, such as the one he is currently being paid for now. Iruka looked down at his empty wallet and sighed. Naruto would have chuckled, but it hurt too much. For the last part of training he had to deal with the strangest man he ever met. But that further solidified that every strong ninja had some sort of weird mannerism that set them apart from others. Wearing bright green spandex and his strange haircut was minute to the speeches he gave about the flames of youth. Besides that, he was a brilliant man who was teaching Naruto everything he could want to learn. Over the last 2 months he grew close to his crazy family of senseis and couldn't be happier. Well, he was still in a lot of pain from his last spar with Guy. He couldn't believe he couldn't even land a finger on the green-clad man. Naruto's gloves now were up to almost 75 pounds each. He was moving slower as he was still sore, but he was getting used to the new weight. Through his training he ruined every one of his orange jumpsuits, so he had to kind of get a new get-up. He currently was wearing orange sandals with blue-tapped ankles. He then had orange track pants that were held up with a blue robe belt that was tied off to the side. Tucked into his pants was a bright white shirt with an orange swirl in the middle, and over that was an orange jacket, turned vest revealing his toned and muscular arms after the sleeves were ripped off. The tattered jacket looked styled that way, and everyone seemed to think it fit him well. He still had his goggles around his forehead that was pushing his long blonde hair skyward. He groaned again as he dropped the chopsticks. He seemed to have broken another bone in his hand. It was one of the cost of his training that he became used to. It was a daily thing. Train till you can't move, then go and find something to eat. Then go to Anko-chan in the dango shop and see if she can set any of the broken bones received by the senseis that day. She would gladly do it as long as he wouldn't play escape rope for Iruka-kun every time she was stalking him. You ready for tomorrow, Naruto? Iruka asked as he slurped down some of his noodles. Yeah, I can't wait, Naruto yelled happily as he fist pumped. I can get that headband and then I can finally stop hiding. You will be getting another sensei after tomorrow, Iruka said as he looked over at his favorite student. You better give him or her everything you got. They won't be as lenient as me. I wish I could just join Gai-san's team, Naruto said as with a slight frown. Then I could really learn a bunch from him. You just want to actually land a hit on him during your spars, Iruka said with a smirk, and Naruto to frown. It's no fair. Naruto said. He can just move so fast that even with it, I'm still too slow to even graze him. It's just so frustrating. I'm sure he will be up to spar you whenever you guys are both free, Iruka said as he rubbed the blonde's spiky hair. Naruto's frown slowly lifted and he was smiling again as his big brother made him feel better. Then you can surprise him with newer techniques. Yeah, Naruto said as his eyes bore the flames of youth. Before he could start to spout the nonsense, Iruka slapped the back of his head. He was with you for a month and almost completely corrupted you, Iruka said as he groaned into his hands. Please try to keep that talk between you two. Your flames just keep on dwindling, Naruto said under his breath as he rubbed the back of his head. Who do you think I will get? Can't say till tomorrow, Iruka said with a smirk as he got up and started out of the ramen shop. See you tomorrow and try not to be too late. I still can't believe out of everything to learn from Kakashi-san you picked up his tardiness and reading habit. I enjoy these books, Naruto said as he pulled out a small orange book from his vest. He tried to open it, but his broken hands was making him wince, so he placed it in his vest again and patted it, as he giggled perversely. It's got a good plot and… Yeah, Iruka said with a smirk. You're lucky all Kurenai-san broke was your fingers today, huh? She called me a pervert, Naruto said with a mock sad face. When really I'm just a hopeless romantic. Hee. Iruka-kun! Screamed a voice down the street. Iruka paled as he looked over to his one escape route. Naruto smirked as Iruka ran over to him begging him to get him out of there. Naruto turned back to the front as the flap to the ramen shop opened and in walked a grinning Anko. Found you. Now Naruto. Iruka begged as he stood behind Naruto and had a death grip on his jacket. Please don't let her. Naru-kun, Anko said softly. You are in between me and my prey. I have a proposition to make, Naruto said, still grimacing under the nickname his favorite sister gave him. Anko's eyebrow arched as Naruto raised his broken hands. Can you undo what Kurenai-sensei did? And what do I get out of it? Anko said as she walked forward, already healing her little brother's hands. Naruto sighed happily as the pain subsided and he looked up at Anko, whose eyes changed from concerned back to predator mode. Well, Naruto said as he flexed his fingers and smiled happily up at Anko. I will let you have your chase tonight. Nar. Iruka tried to get out but was cut off as Anko lunged at him and grabbed him by his vest and started to drag him outside. Naruto, how could you? You know what you failed tomorrow. Oh. Naruto looked up with a raised eyebrow from his book. Did you say something? You're late, screamed Mizuki as Naruto walked through the door. Not even glancing up from his book, Naruto answered back, which caused the entire classroom to face fault. I was helping a stray cat out of a tree when I noticed that I landed on a crack in the ground, Naruto said with a smirk. So I had to walk backwards and retrace my steps to my apartment to get rid of the bad luck. Liar. Yelled half the class, causing Naruto to shrug and look for an open seat. He found one next to Hinata, who seemed to be holding back a rather large blush. So, Naruto said, looking over at Hinata, who, EPED. What did I miss on my 2 months out, you Hinata said as she looked Naruto over, not once but twice. Blood slowly fell from her nose as she landed on her desk, passed out. Naruto chuckled and glanced around, noticing that most of the girls in the class seemed to like the new toned and reveling Naruto. So this is what it's like to have fangirls. Naruto whispered to no one, but was answered by the sleeping sloth in front of him. That is why I stay UTR, Shikamaru said with a smirk as he rose his head just enough so you could see his eyes. And what's UTR? Naruto said as Mizuki started in on his lecture for the test they would be taking. Naruto pulled out his book and thumbed through it as Shikamaru groaned and leaned back. It's a technique that has kept the Naras out of the public eye for as long as we've been around, Shikamaru answered with a smirk. We keep ourselves UTR, or in other words, under the radar. Naruto and Shikamaru shared a slight laugh, which was short-lived as Mizuki yelled at them to pay attention. Naruto continued his reading till Hinata groaned and woke back up. Naruto smirked at her as she cleaned the small bit of blood from her nose and turned away from Naruto. Naruto finally understood the reason she got so worked up and couldn't help but keep messing with her. She would get used to it hopefully, or die from blood loss. Naruto put his book away and stretched his toned arms and wrapped one around Hinata's shoulders, causing her to take a sharp intake of air and freeze in place. Yes, today was going to be fun. Okay, so first up, Mizuki said with a smirk. Written exam, damn it. Naruto swore under his breath. After Naruto finished copying his answers, finished his test, Naruto joined the others outside for their field exam. Naruto smirked as the numbers were called out for sparring partners. Naruto got lucky and was going to be fighting Mizuki-sensei. Finally, a little payback for those stupid written exams. How was any of that going to be useful in the field, he didn't know. Naruto walked over to the training circle when it was his time. He looked around and didn't see any of his family of sensei, so he might be able to sneak a quick preview to his class of what he really could do. Naruto got into his stance, causing others to laugh how unorganized he looked. Naruto knew that without his technique the style wouldn't do anything for him, but with it he was beyond most chunin with taijutsu. Naruto waited for his sensei to start the fight when he felt a disturbance in the force. Naruto jumped back as two kuni landed right where he was before. What did I say? Came a voice from behind Naruto. Naruto turned to see his big brother standing there with a dangerous look in his eye. Come with me, the Hokage wants to talk to you. What? Naruto yelled as he looked up at Iruka with pleading eyes. Every eye in the class was on the two of them. Mizuki had a triumphant smirk on his face as if he won something. Hinata looked ready to jump in to help Naruto, but Shikamaru placed a hand on her shoulder and calmed her. But I didn't do anything, honest, come, Iruka said as he started to walk away. Naruto followed him as they made their way towards the Hokage tower. Iruka started to chuckle and turned back towards Naruto. I think we scared your class pretty good, don't you? Iruka said with a grin. And you played it perfect. What are you talking about? Naruto yelled as they made their way into the Hokage's room. We had to make it seem like you failed your genin exam, Iruka said with a smirk. We have intel that we received about a traitor in the academy. Your first mission as a Kahona ninja will be to wait for him to approach you and ask for your help. Once done, you will complete the job to the best of your abilities and then we will arrive to take out the traitor. So you want me to do what this guy asked? Naruto said with raised eyebrow. What if I had to kill someone? Doubtful, the Hokage said. You know how to incapacitate without the need for killing. Utilize that to your advantage. And how will you guys know where to find me? Naruto asked, now taking this more seriously. I think we will be able to find you just about anywhere, came a voice from behind Naruto. Naruto turned to see Kakashi Ni-san reading his book in the doorway. We just have to follow our nose. Fine, Naruto said as he looked back to the Hokage. Where do I start? Naruto sprinted through the woods at top speed. Apparently the Hokage didn't tell the Anbu that he was on a secret mission. They were hunting him down like there was no tomorrow and he couldn't find a place to hide. Naruto looked back to see that he lost them once again. Not taking any chances, he bamfed to a small shack that he used during hot escapes like this one. He panted a bit as he leaned against the old shack. He must have been further than he thought he was because that jump took a bit out of him. Naruto sat down and stared at the scroll that was around his back. When Mizuki-sensei came to him in the playground, he first thought he was actually trying to comfort him. Then he dropped the ball, so to speak, when he thought he could silver-tongue his way into getting the scroll. Naruto couldn't wait for Kakashi Ni-san to kick his ass. That will show that two-bit traitor. Well, Naruto said to himself as he looked at the scroll. I do have time to kill. Naruto smirked as he rolled the scroll back up. There was too much to even comprehend in that scroll, but one seemed to be very useful. The Kage Bushin, the shadow clone. He managed to complete the jutsu in under 10 minutes and found himself bored again. So he dived back into the scroll and found a way to cause said Kage Bushins to explode. Naruto found out the hard way that they cause a rather big explosion and stopped training after that. Naruto continued on and found one more Bushin that was rather useful and not as deadly. The Flashbang Bushin. It was simple, take Kage Bushin, add a pinch of charged chakra, and hold a huge light show that will cause blindness, deafness to everyone in a 10-foot radius. Naruto looked around and noticed that Mizuki would be here anytime now and he had to get ready. Popping off a few clones and having them charged and ready, Naruto waited in the clearing in a sitting position while his clones hid themselves in the woods. He heard a whistling and jumped out of the way of the kuni that landed right where he sat. Naruto looked up and noticed a tired-looking Mizuki. What the hell is going on? Mizuki asked as he looked down at the blonde. What are you talking about, Mizuki-sensei? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. I got you the scroll like you wanted. I pass now, right? Don't give me that shit. Mizuki yelled. I was thrown about this forest like a rag doll by who knows how many Anbu, Jonin and your stupid brother of yours IR. He couldn't finish that sentence as one of Naruto's clones surprised him with a flashbang, causing Mizuki to be launched from the tree disoriented and clawing at his now bleeding ears. You like what I learned? Naruto asked as Mizuki started to scream loudly. Oh, that's right, you can't hear me. I said, do you like what I learned? What was that? Mizuki yelled, not able to hear his own voice. Naruto chuckled as he noticed that Mizuki was screaming profanities at him but was still unable to hear himself. Finally, having enough of it, Mizuki pulled out a kuni and got into his stance. Naruto stopped chuckling and became serious as he got into his unorthodox stance, which caused Mizuki to smirk confidently. There was a slight cough and Naruto looked up and there was his family. They all watched the unaware Mizuki as he was about to face off with their son, brother, nephew. Should we help him? Iruka asked, looking down with much concern. Anko appeared behind him and wrapped her arms around his waist and held him close. Iruka sighed a bit and smiled down at Naruto, who gave them the thumbs up. Should we help who? Asuma said with a chuckle as Naruto's eyes glazed over and he disappeared only to appear behind Mizuki. Asuma's eyes widened as he noticed that there was two Narutos instead of his usual one. When did he A cage Bushin. Hokage asked but was answered as the Bushin blew up just as Naruto placed him and, bamfed, away. Mizuki was thrown forward by the blast which caused his back to catch fire. Naruto, bamfed, in front of Mizuki and delivered a bone-shattering punch to his sternum. Mizuki coughed up blood as he was launched into what appeared to be another clone that blew up, causing more damage to Mizuki, who landed in a heap of smoldering clothes and burnt skin. Naruto stood to the side and brushed himself off as he picked up the scroll. Naruto walked over to the Hokage, who landed in the clearing along with the others. "Hokage Gigi," Naruto said with a smile. "Your mission is complete. Can I have that hat now?" "Naruto, you did well," the Hokage said with a smile as he puffed on his pipe. "But first you need to have a forehead protector." "Naruto," Iruka said with a smile as he removed his headband and held it out. "You've made me very proud, little brother." Naruto grabbed the headband with tears in his eyes. He finally got it. He was officially one step closer to becoming the Hokage. Naruto placed it over his forehead and tied it tight. The straps were a little long and came down to the center of his back, but Naruto didn't care. In fact, he liked it better that way. Naruto turned back towards the smoldering remains of Mizuki, who was groaning from pain as 3 Anbu picked him up. "Now for payment," the Hokage said as he hefted the large scroll into his hands. "Since you took it upon yourself to look into the forbidden scroll and then proceeded to learn 3 techniques, you will receive none. The jutsus will suffice as payment." "But Gigi," Naruto yelled. "I wanted ramen to celebrate." "No buts," Hokage said as he disappeared with a shunshin. Naruto continued to rant about the clearing popping off clones, sending them to go blow up a tree or two. Clearly amused by the situation, the Jonin all laughed at Naruto, which caused him to become more angry. "Naruto, I will take you to celebrate," Iruka finally said with a smile as the blonde looked back at him with tears of joy. Anko looped her arm through Iruka's and turned towards the other Jonin. "I think we should all take out our Naru-chan for doing so well," Anko said as Naruto frowned at the name. "That way I can steal Iruka-kun away when no one is looking." Iruka said as he slipped out of Anko's grasp and grabbed onto Naruto's shoulders. "Meet everyone there, now Naruto, you got it," Naruto said as his eyes changed color and Anko made a dive for them. "Damn it all." Anko cursed out as the smoky outlines mocked her ATEMPT and slowly disappeared. "Come on, Anko-chan," Kurenai said as she and Asuma started to walk away. "We know where they are going." "My youthful rival," yelled Guy. "We must have a race to see who can get there. Did you say something?" Kakashi asked as he giggled perversely. Guy started to cry and followed Kakashi as they followed Asuma and the girls. Naruto sat down in the same seat as yesterday and ignored the comments coming from the kids who passed the first time. Naruto nudged Shikamaru, who stirred slightly and smirked at Naruto. "So how was the private mission?" Shikamaru asked softly as he yawned. Naruto looked at him with a raised eyebrow, wondering how he got that. "Please, you truly believe that I couldn't tell the difference when you lined up with that type of taijutsu stance? Only one who knows exactly what they are doing would do something like that. Then you dodged 2 kuni from out of nowhere and Iruka shows up to take you away. You don't have to give me any details, but I'm glad you made it. I would have hated to become dead last in class, then paired off with the duck butt over there." "I heard that," yelled said duck butt. "Shut up, Teme." Naruto yelled back as Sasuke scuffed and looked away, and Choji, who was on the other side of Shikamaru, still munching on chips. "Now the best news of all. We get to see the dead last outshine the Rookie of the Year. Can't wait. You guys really don't think I will be on the same team as him, do you?" Naruto asked as raised an eyebrow. Whose team did you want to be on, Naruto-kun?" Hinata asked as she joined the conversation. Naruto turned and smirked at the princess. Naruto, trained under the watchful eye of his brother Kakashi, has taken a whole new appreciation of the true beauty that is our female counterparts. Hinata was truly beautiful to him and he wasn't going to let her slip by his fingers for that stupid crush he had on. What was her name? Oh yeah, Sakura. But he wasn't going to just up and take her out on a date or something. He was going to do his own game of flirting. "Why, I would want the most beautiful girl in the class," Naruto said as he cast a foxy grin which Shikamaru picked up on. Hinata's shoulders slumped as she knew he wanted Sakura, but was shocked to the bone when she felt Naruto's strong, bare arms wrap around her shoulders once again and pull her close. I want to be on your team, Hinata-chan. And she made it to about 30 seconds this time, Choji said as he handed over the money to Shikamaru. I thought she would have made it the entire minute. How long you going to continue to torture that to the poor girl? Shikamaru asked as he pocketed the money. She's completely smitten over Ya and you keep messing with her. I can't help if a small bit of flirting causes her to pass out, Naruto said as he laid her gently on his shoulder. But I have to break her of it soon. Okay, so let's place bets, Naruto said as he looked over at Shikamaru, who smirked. Of his many favorite things to do, gambling was becoming one of the top 5. It was fun to play the odds and usually take home more than he left with. I bet that you will be the new Ino Shika Cho combo, Naruto said with a smirk. While I get placed with Shino and Hinata, why those two? Shikamaru asked with a raised eyebrow. Well, Naruto said as he looked around. With my blood limp we could become the best assignation espionage group around. I would take you instead of Shino, Shika, but I think they are heart set to make that trio come alive again. Fine, I will take your bet, Shikamaru said with a smirk. 20 ryos. Deal, Naruto said as they shook and in walked Iruka, who looked a bit worse for wear. He was sporting new love bites on his neck and what looked like a gash across his cheek. Seems he got caught again. Iruka-sensei, are you alright? Asked Ino as she looked him over. He just was raped, Naruto yelled out as he flipped a page in his orange book. He ducked in time to dodge the eraser that was thrown at him. Naruto wasn't expecting for the eraser to bounce off the desk and slam into the back of his neck. Hey, Iruka said with a confident smirk as curses filled the room from Naruto. Still got the old throwing arm. Anyway, today we will be dividing you into teams and giving you your Jonin-sensei. Team 1, Iruka started after a long and boring speech about how they're ninja now and whatnot. Naruto wasn't really paying attention as he thumbed through his book. Team 7, Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and Kiba Inuzuka. Your Jonin-sensei will be Kurenai Yuhi. Genjutsu Specialist Team, Naruto commented to Shikamaru. Sho nodded slowly. The Uchiha have been known for some of the strongest genjutsu out there. And Kurenai Ne-san is the best in Konoha. Then explain the reason for Kiba? Shikamaru asked, looking at him. Even with Sasuke and his hand-to-hand ability, Naruto said. They will need someone to go in for the kill or protect them as they cast. It's quite the strong team. As long as they protect each other's backs it will work. Team 8, Shino Aburame, Hinata Hyuga, and Naruto Uzumaki. Your Jonin-sensei will be, Iruka said as he looked up with a groan. Kakashi Hatake. Yes, Naruto yelled. We get Guy Ni-san's eternal rival. What better way to become stronger than Guy then train under his eternal rival, Iruka said as he scratched his head. Right, Team 10. Don't even say it, Iruka-sensei, Shikamaru said as he handed Naruto his 20 ryo. Troublesome blondes. Naruto flipped another page in his book and giggled perversely as they waited for their sensei. Hinata had awoken a while ago and was making small conversation between her and Shino, who was sitting next to her. Shino was a bit too quiet for Naruto's taste, but he didn't mind the stoic attitude, nor his ability to use bugs as weapons. Naruto watched out of the corner of his eye as Shino navigated a bug around a series of patterns on his desk. It was as if he was training him to communicate with another ninja by walking out different signs they used to direct in silent missions. Naruto looked to see Hinata was still a bit red-faced from his comments earlier, so I made it onto the team I wanted. Hinata-chan, Naruto said with a small grin as she blushed when she heard the chan. Metton Naruto-kun, Hinata said meekly. Naruto leaned back in his chair, not taking his eyes off his book, and put his arm around her shoulders again. She turned beet red and even Shino seemed a bit amused. Team 8, said a voice at the door. Kakashi looked up at his team and I smiled. Kakashi Ni-san. Naruto yelled out. I can't wait to get strong under your guidance. My flames of youth will outshine Guy Ni-san's. Did you say something? Kakashi said as he looked up from his orange book. Naruto face-palmed but smirked at his brother. Meet me on the roof. Let's go, Naruto said as he stood. Okay, so let's start by introducing ourselves, Kakashi said as he put away his book. You likes, dislikes and whatever. I will go first I guess. My name is Kakashi Hatake, have no intentions of telling you my likes and dislikes. As for my dream, I have a few hobbies. Nice Ni-san, Naruto said as he flipped a page in his book with a slight blush. Shino looked perplexed and Hinata was just confused. We only learned your name Kakashi-sensei, Shino said in a calm voice. Kakashi waved him off and motioned him to go next. Fine, I'm Shino Aburame. I like to study different species of bugs and using them in my combat. I dislike bug zappers? Naruto jutted in. Pesticides? Kakashi said with a slight smirk under his mask. I dislike people who interrupt someone when they are speaking, and I hold grudges. My dream is to become as capable clan head as my father. Shino finished giving both Kakashi and Naruto death glares as they seemed to mirror each other in the turning of a page in their books. A slight buzzing was heard from under Shino's coat and before anything could escalate Hinata spoke up. My name is Hinata Hyuga, she said calming the situation. I like me right Hinata-chan, Naruto said with a foxy smile causing her to become a completely different shade of red. And Naruto-kun, Hinata said looking at him then turning back to Kakashi. A and cinnamon buns. My dislikes A are people who don't look for the good in people and judge too quickly. My dream is to become a strong clan head and protect those precious to me. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto yelled standing up giving the victory sign. And I like ramen, my new family, and the flames of youth. I also really like Hinata-chan and I'm starting to like Shino. Whatever, Shino whispered under his jacket. Hinata was long since passed out and Kakashi snickered. My dislikes, Naruto's voice changed, losing his joyful tone he had a second ago. Well, anyone who treats someone like crap for no reason. My dream is to become the best Hokage ever so I can also protect those precious to me. Oh, and write my own series of books. Hee. I like that dream Naruto, Kakashi said with a perverted laugh as well. Anyway, we will be doing one final test. Tomorrow at training ground 7 at 8, okay? Oh, and don't eat breakfast. Why not Kakashi-sensei? Hinata asked as she pushed her fingers together after waking up. You'll just throw it up if you do, Kakashi said as he vanished in a swirl of leaves. Hey guys, Naruto said as he turned to the two of them. Eat breakfast. Trust me on this one. Having a little nutrients is better than none, Shino said in a matter-of-fact way. It is only logical that sensei is if we would just blindly follow orders or use our heads. It's a pretty good tactic I would say. Why you're right Shino-san, Hinata said as she looked over at Naruto. IW would think. And never mind. Know what do you think is going to happen? Naruto asked as he put a hand on her shoulder. Hinata looked up at the two of them. Shino nodded for her to continue and Naruto's helping hand on her shoulder gave her a new sense of ease. She felt more herself, and felt like she didn't have to second-guess her idea. Well, I would think that if we were to go up against a Jonin, Hinata said. Naruto rose an eyebrow and glanced at Shino who, too, was shocked. That we need to work as a team. We will need to go over everyone's specialties and we can come up with a plan of attack for different scenarios. Brilliant idea Hinata-chan. Naruto yelled as he picked her up in a hug. We will pass definitely now with your beautiful, youthful ideas. You're the best. And Naruto-kun, Hinata said with a giggle. Why you're embarrassing me? Oh, forget what people think, Naruto said as he set her down and turned towards Shino who gave the slightest of nods. Right Shino. If people think you're weird, they can screw off, for once, Shino said as the outline of a smile could be seen. I agree, they can screw off, as you so put it. Hee, Naruto said. You're all right Shino. So I say we plan our attacks over food. Ramen here we come. Naruto and the others arrived at the training grounds after meeting for breakfast. They were 2 hours late and it seemed they were still early. Naruto flopped down on the ground next to the training post and proceeded to pull out his orange book. No Naruto, Hinata said as she slapped his hand away from his pocket. You shouldn't be reading that. It's bad. But, Naruto said giving the best puppy dog face he could. Hinata just looked away from him with a huff. Naruto sighed and put his hands behind his head. Fine you win. Whipped, Shino whispered under his breath. Naruto cocked an eyebrow at him but didn't say anything in retort. Hey he was, and nothing he could do about it. Ah team, Kakashi said from behind them. I see you arrived on time. Hope I wasn't too late. Now we just got here Kakashi-ni-san, Naruto said a bit irritated. Kakashi's eyes smiled at his little brother. He would ask what was up later but now it was time for the test. So the test, Kakashi said. He always loved this part for some reason. Torturing the young genin is like a pastime. Kakashi pulled out 2 bells and presented them for them to see. You have till noon to get a bell. If you don't retrieve a bell you fail and go back to the academy. Cool, Naruto said as he leaned forward. We planned for this kind of test. Well, the test is not entirely the right scenario, Shino said adjusting his glasses. But that plan should work. The timing might hurt us, Hinata said as she stood and activated her bloodline. We should hurry then. Oh yeah. Naruto yelled as he stood as well. I need to let out some stress. I hope you're ready, Ni-san. Shit, Kakashi said under her breath as he tied the bells to his belt. First I have a questions, what plan? Well, it starts like this, Shino said as a swarm of bugs erupted from his sleeves causing Kakashi to jump back but was intercepted by Hinata who was attacking fluidly with her gentle fist. Kakashi noticed he was being pushed back towards the swarm of bugs that were coming straight for him. Then out of the bugs came Naruto charging headstrong as ever. Hinata jumped back as Naruto appeared in front of him with a smirk, and ends like this, said Naruto as Kakashi threw a punch. Naruto dodged and latched onto the outstretched arm as Kakashi's eye widened. The flashbang clone caused Kakashi to become disoriented and he flashed through hand seals and let loose a huge stream of fire in circle that would buy him some time. Naruto landed next to Hinata who reactivated her dojutsu. Shino appeared behind them and they looked down at Kakashi who was slowly recovering. Leave it to me guys, Naruto said as his eyes slowly turned to silver. Remember that surprise I was going to show you guys? Yes, Hinata said staring at him as he turned back and smirked. Well, here it goes, Naruto said as he bamfed away causing his 2 teammates to go slack-jawed. Naruto was everywhere at once, and Kakashi was having a terrible time blocking all the punches. He started to guess where the next strike was coming from but he soon found that Naruto's style was so uncommon, so sporadic that he had no rhythm. He was almost impossible to predict and his only advantage on him right now was experience. That proved to be not as helpful as hoped when he was again punched by a spiked glove. Then it all stopped. Kakashi looked down and noticed that he was beaten when Naruto tossed both bells to his teammates. You guys did great setting him up and letting me get in with that flashbang clone, Naruto said with a smile. Naruto, Hinata said with a smirk. We worked as a team. If only 2 of us pass then it's not a team. Kakashi-sensei, I will forfeit my bell. I concur with Hinata, Shino said as he threw his bell at Kakashi who couldn't be happier. You guys did great, Kakashi said with his patented eye smile. You guys pass? Yes. Naruto yelled as he bamfed up to Hinata and picked her up and bamfed back. Hinata was a bit dizzy from the sudden movement but nevertheless was smiling happily as Naruto spun her around. Now I need each of you to know what type of team we are, Kakashi said as they sat around a small table in barbecue joint they picked for their celebration lunch. We will be an assassination espionage team. Each of you has a skill set that benefits this team. Now first is going to be weapon. Shino, you will be training close with a friend of mine in the art of poisons. You two will discuss the weapon you get on how well you do. Hinata, I know your clan is proud of its gentle fist, but in this team you will need a weapon. You will learn to use this. Kakashi pulled out a tanto that was sheathed in pure black sheath. Hinata's eyes widened a bit as the blade was set in her hands. She slowly pulled the blade out and held it a bit in front of her. The blade was perfect in every way. That was my first tanto, Kakashi said with an eye smile. You will do it proud. Now for my younger brother. Oh, let me guess, Naruto said jumping up and down. A katana? Oh, I know, a great spear. No, Kakashi said as he set a scroll on the table. Nothing big would suit your fighting style. You needed a more personal approach. These will be perfect for you. Oh, what is it? Naruto said as Kakashi unsealed the scroll. Laying on the table were twin-bladed tonfas. The handle was wrapped in orange wrapping and the blades themselves were a dark black hue in color. Naruto picked one up and noticed that the placing of the handle made it so that he still had about 3 inches of blade sticking out in front of his fist while the other tip reached just past his elbow. This would make his fist even more deadly, causing even more stabbing damage. Naruto picked up both and slowly spun them in his hands. It felt like the first time he bamfed almost unnaturally good. He smirked at Kakashi, who was happy to see that his choice of weapon would suit his fighting style perfectly. Naruto slipped them into a makeshift sheath that Kakashi handed him. He wrapped the ties so they were positioned in the middle of his back for quick grabbing. "We will begin weapons training after lunch," Kakashi said as he sipped his tea and opened his book. Hinata's eyes twitched as she saw the book in his hand. Naruto was slowly reaching for his when Hinata turned to him. Naruto quickly started to scratch his chest and picked up some food, avoiding her eyes. "So," Kakashi said as he pulled out a 2 kuni and faced Naruto. "She doesn't like you reading the Great Ik series?" "No," Naruto whined as he paced back and forth spinning his blades in his hands. "She just doesn't understand the beauty of it. I mean, they're works of art." "Hey, you're preaching to the choir," Kakashi said as he got into his defensive stance. "How do you get away with it around people?" Naruto asked as he bamfed and struck behind Kakashi, who blocked the attack. "I mean, no one gets mad at you? And girls still seem to like you as well." "Well," Kakashi said as Naruto bamfed into his side and then back to the front, confusing Kakashi a bit. "That's because I'm single, and you're. Well, are you two seeing each other?" "I wish," Naruto said as he slashed low and bamfed again to his side and attacked high, catching Kakashi in the arm, causing him to wince in pain and call an end to the quick spar. "But you're whipped enough by her to not read your beloved novels in front of her," Kakashi said with an eye smile. "Yeah," Naruto said as he got back into his stance. "Let's hurry, I have to catch up on said reading after this training is over. Oh, and by the way, who did you dump the other two on for their one-on-one training?" "Hee," Kakashi smirked as he spun his kuni. "Well, Hinata should be fine with Hayate and Yugao, but it's Shino I'm kind of worried about." "Why?" Naruto asked as he attacked only be kicked back and looked at the wicked eye grin Kakashi had. "You didn't leave him with. I will have my vengeance," Shino swore to himself as he dodged kuni after kuni as the deranged women chased him throughout the dense forest. "I'm stuck with you, brat," yelled the voice from behind as a kuni hit next to his head against a rather large tree. "While my Iruka-kun could be hit on by some random bimbo, you're borderline stalking him," Shino cursed himself as he saw his attacker lick her lips. "I mean, run," she said calmly. "Run very fast." "I can't believe you left him with her," Naruto said with a laugh after they finished their 4-hour-long training and were walking back to their meeting spot. Both had their books out and reading, not really paying any attention to what was happening around them. "Well, she is the best poison expert we know," Kakashi said in his defense. "If Shino can become as adept as her, then he will have no equal in that field. With his insects he can inject any amount of venom into his enemies without any traces of evidence." "Not someone we want on our bad side, huh?" Naruto asked as they both flipped a page. Then it hit them, and both of their heads shot up to see a pissed-off Aburame. His coat was completely torn apart and revealing several deep cuts and burn marks on his white chest. "Vengeance," he said calmly with sadistic smile. "Oh, it will be mine. Oh, look at the time. Adieu," Naruto said with a quick bamf, and he was gone, leaving a scared Kakashi. "So learn anything new?" Kakashi asked as the sound of thousands of small wings filled the air. Kakashi gulped as he put his book away and slowly reached for his headband. He wasn't sure what Anko-san would have taught him, but by the look in Shino's eyes, it couldn't have been good. "You could say that," Shino said with a sadistic laugh. Thanks for watching, guys.